Lamborghini Super Trofeo, the second race, the one that tilts us into the second half of the 2020 championship. The conditions could not have been better. Yesterday's race was an absolute cracker, and it on the smallest of margins. And today the drivers go out onto a circuit with the air getting warmer, but importantly the track temperature rising all the time. It was only 4.5 degrees when the first track action started this morning. Getting any heat into the rubber was very, very difficult indeed. But with Target Racing starting on the front row, Bernaldi Motorsport alongside. But it's the team that made the yesterday. Green, yellow cars with Oregon team who took their first win. That has really raised their tails. Dean Stoneman could have won yesterday, but a 3-second penalty. That car was first to finish. He shares it with Patrick Kujla, but in the end, that 3-second penalty pushed them back to second. But let's go down and find out on the grid about all matters Lamborghini.
Giorgio, we're coming into the second half of the season now, and of course the competition is still very, very open.
Yes, this year we have the opportunity to see a lot of young drivers competing at very high level. We have nearly 10 cars in the pro class with all young talents that are fighting not only for the title but also to have an opportunity to be support from Squadra Corse next year in the GT3 programs with our young drivers program. So it's a fantastic season. We are in the middle, yes. Now we are looking also for Spa and for Paul Ricard, the last two rounds. So let's see. I expect a challenging race also today.
And yesterday's race with the mixed weather conditions that we had was very exciting.
Yes, absolutely. But I think also today will be challenging because it's quite cold. So it will be quite difficult in the first laps of the race. So let's see. But I think all the guys are doing a very good job.
How are the guys managing to get the heat into the tyres? That seems to have been problematic this morning.
Yeah, this is quite difficult because they don't have the warm machine like in GT3. So they start everybody with cold tyres. At least the first 2-3 laps it will be quite thrilling and challenging to manage. But I think all the drivers, including the gentleman drivers we have in the Pro-Am and in the Am, are quite expert. So I'm sure they will manage in a proper way.
Giorgio, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to you.
Always good to hear from Giorgio Sanna, and again the role he has of the Squadra Corsa, the young drivers, it really is a huge element in Lamborghini's motorsport push. Car on pole position, Target Racing, one of their two cars in the race, Alberto Di Folco, and he is having an increasingly good season with his Danish teammate Kevin Russell. They're on pole. Yeah, last minute instructions, just reiterating what the teams all know about how to keep the heat in the tyre, get the heat in the tyres, keep the heat in the brakes. But track temperature, as Giorgio Sanna pointed out, absolutely critical. Kevin Russell in the background. Now let's take a look at the championship. It's close at the top. Dean Stoneman, he's out there on his own racing for Bernaldi. He's now got Patrick Kujla this weekend, but Milos Pavic and Raul Guzman, very strong pairing, equal on points. Kevin Russell, we saw him just behind the pole-sitting car, and Alberto Di Folco there, third in the championship on 46. Kevin Ghilardoni and Dorian Boccalacci, Italian-French combination, suddenly they took victory yesterday. They're starting to come into the mix, but they know they've got to win every time out to really start taking a tilt at the likes of Pavic, Guzman and Stoneman at the top of the table. But it's tightening up nicely, which is exactly what we want. Noah Watt, new on board this weekend, son of the Formula 3000 star Jason Watts, and he's really finding his form in car racing since moving up from karting. He will be starting, his car starts third, he's sharing it with Sebastian Baltazar. That's Leipert Motorsport, the red car, third on the grid. But for Noah Watt, really showed very, very impressive form here on his championship debut this weekend. Not so long ago he was a karter. Now let's take a look at the Pro-Am Cup, and it's Andrei Lewandowski who shares with Karel Bass, leading comfortably 20 points clear of Lorenzo Bonsempelli. But Lorenzo finding good form again with Oregon Racing. Team Oregon really shining at Barcelona. But that 20-point lead for Lewandowski and Karel Bass puts a smile on their team chief's face. That's Vincenzo Sospiri. And in fact, if anything went wrong yesterday, it tended to happen to the VS Racing cars. So Sospiri will be hoping for a better day today. They were the ones that ended up in the gravel from time to time. But that's a good 20-point lead in the Pro-Am Cup. But let's go down to the grid, because we've got further interviews coming up on this beautiful morning at Barcelona. It's cool, it's calm. We're missing one of the cars, the car that should be in third place. And let's go down and hear from Dorian Boccalacci.
Dorian, you've got a slightly big gap between you and the car in front of you. In fact, the second row car here has had an accident on the outlap, I believe. So you've got a bit of space ahead of you for the start.
Yeah. So we have some space. It's difficult to manage because we need to keep a pace of one car in front. But yeah, at that speed is really difficult to manage it. But I'm not taking the start, so he will manage it for sure well. And yeah, for sure it's maybe a bit easier to have one less car in front. So I think we'll use this advantage during the race. I hope we'll use it.
And you're feeling a little bit calmer after yesterday. When we saw you after the race, you were a little bit stressed.
No, not stressed, but I don't like when the things are not correct. And I want when the things are correct and everybody is respectful on track and out of the track. And yeah, but it's finished. Yesterday has gone, and today is another race and a new challenge, new day.
Well, you certainly had good pace yesterday. Can you convert that today and get onto the podium?
Yeah, for sure. It's different because yesterday was humid and we had a wet tire. Now it's a bit humid, but it's a slick tire, so it will be a different day. And we just need to manage well the tires during all the race, and it will be fine.
Have a good race. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dorian Boccolacci, very much one of the new young faces, just turned 22 a few weeks ago, and not so long ago he was racing in Formula 2, so single seaters was his thing, but he's come across this year full time to racing with cars with roofs and making a major splash. And the car that is missing from the grid is the car that the second of the target racing cars. That's Raul Guzman and Milos Pavlovic. Don't forget they share the championship lead, and obviously has had a slide off the circuit at some points on the way round. Going down to row number 3, top Pro-Am runner, that's Karol Bash, the super talented karting star from Poland. Mind you, the karting element has slid back into the past. He's very much a Lamborghini star. He's starting before handing over to fellow Pole Andrzej Lewandowski. That's for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, or VS Racing. Their second car shared by no one. It's Sebastian Fernandez all the way. That had a few slip-ups yesterday, but in today's kinder conditions, let's hope that Sebastian on home ground has a better run, a run that takes him all the way through this 50-minute race. Got a rolling start and 50 minutes of racing for these fabulous sounding, fabulous looking Lamborghinis. Car number 7, Patrick Liddy, and he shares that with Jonathan Cecotto, and I think it's Patrick's turn to start. Yes, it will be this race, because Jonathan started yesterday. That car led the race in the early stages, and as we heard from the Oregon team, that's another car that gains a position effectively, with Target Racing having had its number 41 entry with Raul Guzman not make it round to the grid. Now the craziest livery is the Mad Croc Racing entry. Elias Niskanen entered by Leipert Motorsport, sharing with Mikko Eskelinen, the Mad Croc himself. So that really stands out from the crowd. And that's one of the cars running in the Pro-Am class. In fact, second best in the Pro-Am class on the grid. Of course, we've got the VS Racing number 16 starting from 5th, and they're starting from 8th position for Elias Niskanen, effective 8th. Max Weering races all on his own, this young Dutch racer who's really stepped up from his first year in car racing, was last year, and absolutely starred in the Dutch, in the Super GT series there. The Supercar Challenge, came second in that, and he's decided to have a go at Lamborghinis. Does all the racing, gets all the experience, does all the mileage, and he's really been going well. The second Oregon team Lamborghini, this is Lorenzo Bonsempelli and Victor Franconi, his new teammate this weekend, and these are cars that even on a grey day stand out with their metallic pink noses, the yellow middle section and the metallic green tail. And of course the sister car was the one that took victory yesterday, Kevin Ghilardoni and Dorian Boccolacci, with every further sounding of a klaxon messages to the crews. That's enough, is your driver. Firing the engine up, still with that gap for the car that should have been starting 4th, the Target Racing entry, Raul Guzman and his teammate Milos Pavlovic. They won the first race of the opening round, but that was a while ago. That was back in Misano, but since then they've been super consistent. First, third, second, third. Yesterday a slip-up, they ended up 8th. And today, potentially a far bigger slip-up. So, as the last of the mechanics and crew members leave the grid, the Lamborghini Urus pace car at the front of the grid to lead the field around on a formation lap. We have a rolling start ahead of this 50-minute race. It looks like a grey day, but that's because we're looking down in the shade of the grandstand out around the circuit. It's a beautiful sunny day. Track conditions still cool, but warming all the time. But for these drivers, tyres, brakes, get the heat into them. They have had that message banged into their skulls by all their team chiefs. Doesn't matter if they've been racing for 10 years, just a reiteration. It's certainly a factor. You don't want to be the fool in the gravel at the first corner. So I'm just looking around to see where the second of the target racing cars is. The first one is leading the field around. That's Alberto Di Folco in the dark car with the yellow flashes. The one with the red flash is the sister car. Just waiting to see if that makes a pit lane start or was allowed to get round to the tail of the grid. Just waiting as this full field comes on down through. But again, let's take a look at the grid. Alberto Di Folco, Dean Stoneman share the front row, but pole to the Italian. Noah Watt, the young Dane, making a real splash here. He starts third, and Raul Guzman does not start from fourth. Did qualify fourth, but sit off on the formation lap. Carol Bash and Kevin Ghilardoni. Look out for a charge from Bash in the first part of the race. Sebastian Fernandez, a Spaniard at home, and Patrick Liddy, that GSM car, has got good pace this weekend. Let's see how high the American goes. Then Elias Niskanen and Max Wearing, showing the cosmopolitan nature of the championship as they share row number 5. Lorenzo Bonsempelli looking for another good result in Pro-Am, and Jonathan Dudek joining the championship this weekend for Lippert Motorsport. Then Yuri Wagner, we're down in the Am runners, is alongside Giuseppe Fascicolo. So Lippert versus Boutson Gignon. Move on down another row, and it's Dilanta Malagamua back for more Lamborghini action in the Am class. Hans Fabry, who took the Lamborghini Cup class yesterday, and all on his own at the back. Kurt Wagner, also in the Lamborghini Cup class. But I want to look at the tail of the pack and see, is the last car a car number 41, or is that at pit exit waiting to come out and play after the little mishap of sliding off the circuit on the way round to the grid. Track temperature, it hasn't continued to climb. It's 13 degrees. Air temperature is climbing up all the time, 15 degrees. Lovely conditions, but a little bit of caution on that opening lap would be very, very worthwhile indeed. Humidity 62%. That's way down on yesterday. We had not just rain coming through, but enormous dumps of rain. Not all the way around the circuit though. Made it a little bit interesting for the drivers. Well, the cars look absolutely fabulous in the bright sunlight. And it does look, just looking down the back, yes, the car at the very tail of the field is the car that should be starting fourth. It's car number 41, Raul Guzman. No, it isn't. It's car number 2. What was that doing all the way? That's Noah Watt. Hold on, Noah Watt should be starting third. What was he doing all the way down at the tail of the field? He's working his way back up the order. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that one. Oh, Noah Watts has moved back into second place, so he's had some form of glitch around the early part of that lap. Got it going again. And is he about to dive in the pit lane? No, he's just moving alongside, but we need the Dean Stoneman car, the black and white one, to get level on the front row for this rolling start. It looks like we may be having a second rolling start lap, because this clearly isn't 2x2 formation. So a second lap, very wise indeed in these cool conditions. As you can see down the start-finish straight, in the shade, drivers moving around, trying to get heat into their tyres. So in fact, the clock has started. So that is a race start behind the safety car. Okay, so start behind the safety car. So what the drivers have to do now, not just get heat in their tyres, warm up the brakes, is stay very, very close to the car in front, because the safety car at some point will be withdrawing. Maybe at the end of this lap, we'll see whether the lights on the light bar go out to let the drivers at the front of the queue know that's the case. But for everybody else, stay as close as you can. There's no point losing a toe when potentially you get up to full racing speed. But of course, when the safety car withdraws, it's Alberto Di Folco who gets to play first, because he's the one who can dictate when they go. When he drops the throttle is his choice, and for those behind, they can't overtake him before the start-finish line, but they can get close. That's their job. His job is to try and break the toe. More of that anon. So right down the order to Kurt Wagner at the back of the field. Still trying to spot Raul Guzman in car number 41. Has he left the pit exit? Not yet listed on my screen. Did he not make it back round? But it's Alberto Di Folco leading the pack around behind the safety car. Dean Stoneman in second. Noah Watt, after that mishap on the formation lap, got up back into that third position. There he is. Safety car in this lap. The lights out on the bar, not yet out on the bar of the roof. They will be. He's going down through turn 10. You normally do it with several corners to go, so maybe by the time he gets up to turn 12, he'll flick it off, and then for Alberto Di Folco, who know exactly what to expect, and then he will dictate the pace of the cars getting away when the safety car releases the field to go racing in anger. Through 11 into 12, Alberto backing the field up a little bit. Quite often drivers they have to make sure they're not going to catch the safety car. He's leaving a big enough gap, and a lot of them go for it just before turn 13. The field approaches turn 13. The right-hander that drops you down the hill. We're going. Di Folco, oh, very, very good from Dean Stoneman. He's got super close. He anticipated the moment the Italian was going to floor the throttle and has managed to keep the toe. Those behind are pretty much nose to tail as well. Out over the curbing, being cautious, but an advantage of about half a second, I think. Well, 0.445, how's that for a guesstimation, is the gap between Di Folco and Stoneman. No changes in behind. Watt covering the inside line. And Carol Bash is up into fourth place, of course, gained that position because Guzman's car did not take the start from the grid. So fifth on the qualifying becomes fourth in the race for Carol Bass, leading the Pro-Am class. Leading runner in AM at the moment is Yuri Wagner. Leading in the Lamborghini Cup class is bright green car of Hans Fabry, the Dutch racer. Di Folco really prepared to push very hard indeed on this first full racing lap at full racing speed. Up into turn 4, really pressing on. Dean Stoneman trying to hang in there. You can see the car in third place. Noah Watt twitching under braking for turn 5. Such a tricky corner. Hard enough if it was on the level, but the fact the exit drops away makes any moment of sort of polar movement when your tail is starting to come round all the more disastrous, as we've seen through the decades. But very, very good from Noah Watt. He's got Carol Bass all over his tail. Carol potentially the quickest driver in this batch. And certainly his speed through the top of Campsa at the crest of the hill at turn 9 is letting him get closer and closer to Noah Watt. But those first two cars just got that little bit of an advantage. There is Carol Bash through turn 11. Ooh, much tidier line from Noah Watt in front of him. That allows him to escape. It also allows Kevin Ghilardoni to close in behind. Ghilardoni car picking up positions there. 16 though, Carol Bass still holding on to that fourth place. The fourth place that was gifted to it, but really his job I thought was to tackle Noah Watt, but made a bit of a mess. Look at the gap between Watt in the red car and the white car of Carol Bash. It's very much gone in the favour of the Dane and not the Pole. So let's scratch all my previous comments about how Carol should possibly work his way to the front of the field. He's got a lot to do. The front of the field, though, is all about Alberto Di Folco against Dean Stoneman. Stretches the advantage 0.8 of a second. Di Folco, as we could see in the early part of that first flying lap, that he was really pushing very, very hard, chancing he had enough heat in his tyres to get grip, chancing that he had enough heat in the brakes to do the braking. Yuri Wagner leading the way in the AM class. He's 12th overall, so he's having a good run. The car looks great, really crisp race livery. But the first two pulling clear at the moment because they've got 1.5 seconds to the good over Noah Watt. Alberto Di Folco, now Dean Stoneman really starting to pick up the pace behind him. And I sense that Watt is getting a new challenge in the opening part of this lap from Carol Bass. Carol Bass now the fastest in the first sector of anybody. So the first three coming through, little gap, then comes Carol Bass. Kevin Ghilardoni trying to hang on in 5th place. Top Pro-Am runner is Elias Niskanen, the Mad Croc Racing, the green and white car with a crocodile livery on it. That's in 8th place overall. He's got Max Swearing tucked in behind him. That very, very bold opening lap from Alberto Di Folco, starting to sense that Dean Stoneman's got the sniff, he's got the scent in his nose. He's not letting him get away. He's actually eking a little bit of an advantage around the lap. The next three very, very close indeed. And for BS Racing, Sebastian Fernandez in 6th place is having a far better run. So we've got the first two, small gap, and then the next 4 cars very close indeed. But Stoneman, much better run onto the start-finish straight. He's right in the slipstream this time. Potentially going to get a good enough toe down the start straight to make a move. Separated by 0.278 of a second as they cross the start-finish line. Happy to sit in behind, take a look, not take a risk. Don't forget, Dean Stoneman shares the championship lead. But the car with which he shares did not start the race. Raul Guzman, he did not start the race. No laps on the board, no points coming their way. So they were equal on 50 points apiece at the start of the race. And it's looking very, very strong indeed for Stoneman. It's come his way. He's got a top teammate in Patrick Kujala, with their chief championship rivals heading for a score of no points in this, the second of the races here in Barcelona. That is very, very good news for the British driver from his championship challenge point of view. Safety car procedure under investigation, car number 2. Remember, we saw Noah Watt charging up. He dropped to the very back of the field on the formation lap. Remember, they were coming around behind the safety car. Then they started the race under safety car conditions. By then, okay, now number 2, drive-through penalty for contact in turn 10. Well, we saw a moment with Carol Bash in turn 10 when Carol got close. I didn't see any contact, but anyhow, suddenly all these are things young drivers have to learn. And for Noah Watt, still can't get to the foot of what it was that caused him to have to drop to the back of the field, then come back through. He's running third at the moment, putting in some very, very good laps, but a drive-through penalty, unfortunately, is going to put him down deep, well, right to the tail of the field. Then he's going to have to show us how he can overtake and come up, but that's unfortunate there for Watt. For those first two, now, what's the advantage? 2.2 seconds. There comes Watt in third place. The team will be getting the message to him, the team from Lippert Motorsport, that you have a drive-through penalty to do, and please don't speed in the drive-through. Amazing how many drivers drop the ball not once but twice. Good little battle behind him. Carol Bass, 4/10 of a second down. Kevin Ghilardoni, another 4/10 down. And Sebastian Fernandez trying to keep up. The second of those white Vincenzo Sospiri racing cars with the yellow and blue stripes, that livery that Vincenzo, he's always had those colours on his helmet since his days in, well, right back in the beginning in the 1980s, late 80s, when he burst onto the racing scene, hot out of karting. But Carol Bass at the moment, Kevin Ghilardoni is right on his tail, and certainly for the Oregon team, they really are finding very, very good form to take it to the second part of the championship. And for Kevin, he goes a long way back with the Oregon team. He was actually here contesting the Renault Megane Trophy for them back in 2012. So he's raced other things in between, but he's delighted to be back with the Italian team and going very well indeed. Gap between first and second slightly larger. We had Dean Stoneman 2 laps ago getting right on the tail of Alberto Di Folco as they go through turn 12. You can see how that has really, really stretched out now. 0.8 of a second on the start-finish line. There's the Spaniard, car number 6, Sebastian Fernandez, trying his utmost to get onto the tail. There's his top speed, that's interesting, nearly 277 kph, that's a fair lick. That's part of the thrill of racing in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. These are quick cars. Now, it's about getting it right. Here's his Patrick Liddy, who's trying to chase down Sebastian Fernandez. He's about 3 seconds in arrears, and in fact, feels as though he's in a race on his own. Patrick's got a bit of company because he's got Elias Niskanen not so far behind him in the Mad Croc livery car. Patrick just out of, there's Patrick, number 7, tucked in behind the Monegasque Crest. GSM Racing just there over one of the air vents. And he's got Elias Niskanen tucked in behind and Max Rearing in a 3-car train with the American at the front. But bit by bit, unfortunately, he's falling away. He's not catching Sebastian Fernandez. He is dropping in the opposite direction. The American racer very much enjoying coming over and competing in Europe this year. Raced on all the American circuits, going really great guns in the North American Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Last year, I think he was ranking in 3rd position. Quick double check on that. Yeah, 3rd in the Pro-Am class last year and 6th overall before trying his hand in Europe this year. But again, of course, if you want to keep racing these cars, you can race in the Asian series as well. It's been very strong in previous years. Of course, this year, all rather hampered by the pandemic. Dean Stoneman trying to fight back, but what was 0.4 of a second disadvantage became 0.8. Last lap it was 1.4 seconds in the rear, but this lap suddenly Dean Stoneman picking up the pace a little bit, but what he gained in the first sector, he lost in the second, so he's not gaining at all. Alberto Di Folco really good in the middle sector of the lap. Here is Di Folco, car number 9. Remember, the race is 50 minutes. We've already put 11 of those into the bag. We had the safety car start, and then once it was released, a really good restart by Alberto Di Folco. Then we had Stoneman closing in, but now Stoneman falling away, and the gap now 1.6 seconds between first and second. then a gap of 4 and a bit seconds, 4.1 seconds, because the gap has got larger because car number 2 has come in to serve that drive-through penalty. Noah Watt in the pit lane, so Carol Bass now up into 3rd place, 0.6 of a second clear of Kevin Gillardoni. They've taken the gift, they've taken the positional advantage handed to them by that run into the pits for Lippert Motorsports' Noah Watt. And again, around the first part of the lap, Dean Stoneman marginally faster than Alberto Di Folco. We get to the second part, the middle part of the lap, and this is where Di Folco really seemed to find his form on each and every lap. But the lap time I really want to keep my eye on is the pace of Carol Bass and Kevin Gillardoni. I sensed they were starting to be a little bit bottled up behind the far less experienced Noah Watt, who's going really well, but it is his first weekend in the Super Trofeo. He's had that drive-through penalty that's dropped him down to, well, it should be to the very tail of the field, I would have thought, or thereabouts, but certainly out of the mix for the pro runners. In fact, this time the gap will swing not towards Di Folco, away from Di Folco, because it's been a better lap relatively by small margins for the chasing Dean Stoneman. And that will be encouragement at last. You don't want the car in front to continue to get a little bit smaller as you look up the track. You need it to be looking larger. Top runner in the Pro-Am class, by the way, is Carol Bass, of course, in 3rd overall. Elias Niskanen is 2nd, he's 8th overall. And 3rd guy in the Pro-Am is Lorenzo Bonsempelli for the Oregon team. Race leader comes over the crest of the hill, Alberto Di Folco on the start finish straight. 1.5 seconds to the good, so it's come down very marginally for Dean Stoneman. Dean knows he's got a cracking teammate in Patrick Kujla, former champion in the Super Trofeo, so he's prepared to take over for the second half of the race. Positional changes, few and far between at the moment. Now look down the order, there's the second of the Oregon cars, Lorenzo Bonsempelli, Jonathan Dudek, nipping one way, nipping the other, car number 69. Lippert Motorsport trying to find a way past. They're fighting over 9th and 10th positions. Alberto Di Folco still that 1.5 seconds to the good over Dean Stoneman, and now the second lap since being released by Noah Watt coming into a drive-through penalty. The driver of car number 16 is the fastest driver on the track, Carol Bass. He's 4.2 seconds down on Dean Stoneman. He's in 3rd place, but his time through the opening sector was quickest of all of anybody on any lap so far this race. Kevin Gillardoni trying to hang on behind and having a really good run for the Oregon team, and Sebastian Fernandez just staying in there in the second of the VS Racing Chargers in 5th place overall. But Carol Bass, how good's his middle sector of the lap? Quicker than anybody else, so by small margins, but he's doing what I thought he might have been able to do. I really did sense he was being bottled up, a little bit frustrated by Noah Watt. We saw him make that slight mistake down at turn 10. Ran off the track a little bit, that allowed Gillardoni to get on his tail, bought a little bit of time for Noah Watt, but for Noah, well, he's tumbled down the order. Just trying to see where he's going to be listed when he comes through at the end of the next lap. 12th place he was at the end of the last lap, having served the drive-through penalty. 3rd went to 12th for him with that drive-through, so he's got a lot more to do. Track time is king at the moment when you've just joined a championship, so back out he comes, and he'll be waiting to hand that over to Sebastian Balthasar at some point around the middle stage of this 50-minute race. Lap times between the top two chopping and change. Carol Bass, Kevin Gillardoni. Unfortunately for the Italian Gillardoni, it's advantage Bass at the moment, so he's gained 1.2 seconds in a couple of laps. That's why this 3rd and 4th place battle between Bass and Gillardoni is going in the favour of the white, yellow and blue car in 3rd. It's stretching clear. Continues to be fastest of all, but still only just under 4 seconds down on Dean Stoneman, who in turn is 1.5 seconds down on the race leader, Alberto Di Folco. Di Folco's driving really nice and tidily. Not taking risks at the moment. Cars sounding great, looking fabulous from particularly the low angle, as some of the camera angles really show the pace of these cars around the circuit. Down to turn 10 they go. Kevin Gillardoni still trying to keep Carol Bass in his sights. Trading a few hundredths here or there, but unfortunately for Gillardoni, the pole is starting to get clear. The pole who's leading the Pro-Am class will stay out as long as he can. He's sharing, obviously, with an AM. He's the pro. The AM, Andrei Lewandowski, no disrespect, not as fast. So, of course, that's the whole nature of Pro-Am lineup. But Carroll will stay out as long as he can. And just before the pit window closes, he'll come in and hand over. And in that stint, Carroll is going to try and stretch the advantage over the next runner in class. Elias Niskanen now up into 7th place overall for Leipzig Motorsport, 2nd in the Pro-Am class. First and second staying at around 1.5 seconds, 1.6 seconds now. Again, tiny margins, difference of just a few thousand, but they're all just going in the favour the last couple of laps of the race leader, Alberto Di Folco. Dean Stoneman trying to keep him honest, trying to keep him very, very close at hand. But all along, in fact, to tell you what, the end of the lap last time around for Carol Bass was not a good final sector. So where he gained through the first 2 sectors on the 2 front-running cars, he lost in the final sector. So he's another 4.1 seconds down now on Stoneman. First 2 really driving like drivers who are totally on top of these cars. But Di Folco knows the Super Trofeo cars really well. He was European Pro-Am champion back in 2014 and a lot of experience ever since. And he's got a very, very good partner in the Dane, Kevin Russell, waiting to take over in the second half of the race. Kevin was Danish Super GT champion, but he has got a long experience in cars since moving up from karts about half a century ago, half a decade ago, but the Dane's still very young, 25 years old. This little battle has got plenty of life in it. It's the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th positions. Patrick Liddy, Elias Niskanen and Max Weering. Of course, they were all promoted with Noah Watt dropping down to 12th place after serving a drive-through penalty. Noah had been running in 3rd place, issued with the drive-through penalty. He's quite a lot of seconds off the tail of this. He's now up to 11th place. His target is Jonathan Judek, should manage to pass him this lap. But Patrick Liddy, at the moment, he's not chasing. He's holding position. He's holding off those 2 cars behind. And they'll be thinking, maybe I'm being held up, maybe I'm not. Shall I have an early pit stop? Shall I come in as soon as the pit window opens? Or shall I wait to the end? They're going to wait and see maybe what Patrick Liddy does. But I think Patrick is not holding them up. But they're not being able to get close enough to make a pass. So it's in the driver's mind what they choose to do. Oh, a little twitch under braking, heavy braking there from Patrick Liddy. You can see him having to balance the car very seriously because turn 1, you come down the slope towards you, have a face full of gravel, you go right, I've got to turn right, and then you need the car to turn in, then right immediately has to turn to left, and so many runners just skirt the gravel, running too deep into that corner. Remember, they're hitting about 270, 280 kph down the start-finish straight, so they're getting a fair pace down there. So while this battle for 6th place, Liddy, Niskanen and Weering is very, very even. 3 of them covered by 1.3 seconds. Gap at the front from our race leader to the gap to 2nd place, Dean Stoneman, 9 ahead of 33, 1.78 seconds. The last 2 laps have been good for Di Folco. Small margins, but they're all just going in his favour. In the background, after a better lap, was Carol Bass, 3.6 seconds in arrears. So in fact, Stoneman's losing a little bit, Bass is gaining a little bit. But in recent laps, Bass has continued to stretch clear of Kevin Gillardoni, so he's now got nearly 3 seconds in arrears in 4th place. So suddenly our first 3 starting to string out a little bit, but they can pit if they want. The pit window has now been open for half a minute, 9.5 minutes more, in which these drivers can come in and bright green car. Well, in fact, it looks like that is Kevin Gillardoni coming in to the pits from 4th place. Kevin Gillardoni pitting as early as he possibly can to hand over to Dorian Boccolacci. Don't forget they were winners yesterday. They're massive high with that. Gillardoni had just been falling away a little bit from Carol Bass. Right time to make a move, I think. So Gillardoni gets out. The smaller figure of Dorian Boccolacci has his seat insert put into the car. Jonathan Cecotto will take over for GSM Racing from Patrick Liddy. And drivers up and down the pit lane awaiting their turn, this 10-minute pit window. Chance to check everything over on the cars. Alberto Di Folco at this point, 1.787 seconds to the good on a sunny morning, a sunny Sunday morning here at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. Liddy just helping to strap his teammate on board, Jonathan Cecotto, who, don't forget, went from second in the race to first yesterday in the early stages. He's got great pace in these Super Trofeo Lamborghinis. But for Alberto Di Folco, nothing sitting in front of him on the track. He has no particular reason to come in until he chooses the moment to do so. Nearly 2 seconds now to the good over Dean Stoneman. So it's target racing ahead of Benaldi Motorsport. Wow, bouncing all over the curbing on the outside. That was a little bit messy. I've been saying earlier how tiny Di Folco's been, and it was just ran a little bit wide. Maybe he's already starting to think about, shall I come into the pits? He's got to see who's going to come out in front of him, and that's the GSM car, I think. Just like the GSM car running down to turn 1, it will be overtaken before the first corner, but for the drivers coming down to brake for turn 1, there's always a concern about other cars coming out into their path, particularly if you've got someone tight on your tail. And I tell you what, Dean Stoneman was a little bit better. That was a messy exit from turn number 15, the exit of the chicane by Di Folco, because he lost 3/10, nearly 4/10 of a second. Couldn't put the power down while he was still bouncing over the curbing. And Stoneman has closed right in. But the good news for Di Folco, he's got Jonathan Cecotto coming out between the pair of them. Cecotto trying to pick up the pace as fast as he can. But they're, oh gosh, and making a bit of an untidy entrance to turn number 5. And is that a chance for Stoneman to go by? Not yet. It's a kink at turn 6. Oh, this is not good news for Stoneman. He just had found a bit of an advantage when Di Folco made a mistake at the end of the previous lap. He wanted a clear run at him while he was a little bit potentially rattled, and now he's the one being rattled. Caught out with Cecotto newly out of the pits, running around in front of him. Jonathan Dudek into the pits. Car 69 about to change hands. Now, in this instance, of course, at this point, the GSM racing car is a lap down, but it's served its pit stop. Gets out of the way into turn 10, sees just enough track for Dean Stoneman to get through, but unfortunately, that has really given an advantage back to Di Folco just as he was starting to get rattled. That really is one of teams so hard for them to work out who's going to be where, but who's going to be emerging from the pit lane in front of them. They have to be really light on their toes, but Di Folco, much tidier exit from the chicane. He's clearly going to go towards the end of the pit window before he stops. Still the first 3 cars running as they were before. Carol Bash still in the background of the picture. But it's Di Folco from Dean Stoneman, 1.9 seconds, so half a second was cost, unfortunately, for Stoneman in his charge. The fact these cars were trading less than 1/10 of a second between them per lap, so hard to get back. But it's other traffic out on the circuit. Vincenzo Sospiri's second car, Sebastian Fernandez, has served his pit stop. He's back out on the track in the mix as well. It confuses the scene. Fernandez only just in front of our race leader, a lap down, but the car number 6 for Sebastian Fernandez on the circuit in front of this driver. The race leader, Alberto Di Folco, doesn't want distractions. Dean Stoneman trying to haul him back in all over again, but how many laps until they catch him? Just for your information, car number 2 still in the hands of Noah Watt, has risen to 5th place. It's had a visit to the pits, but that was a drive-through penalty. Don't forget, started 3rd, ran 3rd, fell to 12th, back to 5th, but by the time the pit stops have been made, he'll be lucky to be at the tail of the top 10, however hard he charges. Then he'll hand over after the pit stop to Sebastian Baltazar. Jonathan Cecotto very quickly getting up to pace for GSM Racing, setting some decent lap times from the get-go. The track continues to get warmer, give more grip to the drivers. More dark drivers diving into the pits this time around. It's Dean Stoneman has had enough. He's not staying out as long as the race leader Alberto Di Folco, so he'll hand over to Patrick Kujala, and that really is a great ace name to put in the car for the second part of the race. Dean Stoneman started this race equal at the top of the championship on 50 points, but with Raul Guzman not starting, that meant that he will pick up no points, nor would his teammate Milos Pavlovic. So this was an opportunity, took a bit of the pressure off Stoneman, and it's determined Patrick Kujala to get on board and see if he can take it to victory. But Di Folco goes on for another lap. He's got Kevin Russell waiting to take over, perhaps this next time around. So, of those who've been and out of the pits, we saw Kevin Ghilardoni coming in from 4th place. His car is now the leader of those who've made a pit stop. Listed as 7, but that will keep on rising. Dorian Boccolacci at the wheel. But providing the pit stops are smooth, Patrick Kugler should emerge ahead of him. But don't forget, of course, the race leader, Alberto Di Folco, still to come and serve his pit stop. Still got time to do this lap, potentially one more and make a pit stop, but no point risking it. Kevin Russell is waiting in the pit lane. Dorian Boccolacci, though, very quickly getting up to speed, putting in some very nice laps since he's emerged from the pits. It's a 10-minute pit window, plenty of chances for the teams to do things differently. Patrick Kugler coming out of pit exit. He will definitely emerge in front of the Oregon car. Wait for the pink metallic nose to come into view over the top of the hill. There it comes. Looks like it's about a 4-second margin or so. Maybe marginally more, but it's been a good run from Dean Stoneman. Ran second, handed it over, but looks like another lap going on the board for Alberto Di Folco. He will come in this next time around. Overall leader. It's always get marginally confusing. You think, gosh, he's a lap to the good, but the number 9 car from Target Racing, their only car in this race after the sister car didn't make it to the start. He's going to press on as hard as he can. Kevin Russell awaits. He's in the pits, waiting to take over, but the real key is how good the in-laps the out-laps might be, because Patrick Kugler certainly wasn't hanging around when he came out to be effective race leader of those that have served pit stops. Came out ahead of Dorian Boccolacci. And for some of these cars, they came into the pits nose to tail. They're going out nose to tail. Has the order been jiggered around? We will see. Alberto Di Folco pressing. His run almost at an end, up the slope through turn 7, turn 8, coming up now, and then at the crest of the hill, turn number 9. Been super tidy through here. The one mistake he's made all race so far, the one has seen, gosh, yes, he's definitely trying very hard at the top of the hill there, was running slightly wide on the exit of the chicane about 3 or 4 laps ago. That gave hope to Dean Stone, but immediately he had Jonathan Cecotto coming out between the pair of them, so just as he gained half a second and maybe had the momentum going his way, 2 cars were interrupted by a car that had already served its pit stop and come back onto the circuit. These things happen. So last few corners for Alberto Di Folco, then he'll be diving into the pits, and this was the 69 car. Jonathan Dudek had handed it over, and a big scary moments for Spanish racer Guillem Peugeot Bayer, and there goes the race leader into the pits. Precision. There we go. What do you keep me waiting for? I had 20 seconds to go by the time I hit the white line. Slows right down, doesn't want to risk any hint of a speed lane. A speed lane, that gave it away. A pit lane speeding infringement, so he creeps down at the mandated speed. And in behind, he's got Carol Bash, who actually closed remarkably. The last couple of laps have been very good for the pole. He got to within 3 seconds as they entered the pit lane. And at one point, the gap between them was about 6 seconds, so that was very, very good for the pole. He's the leading Pro-Am runner. All the cars have now at least entered the pit lane. All but 2 of them have exited the pit lane, and the car leading the grouping will be Patrick Kugler. He'll be the front runner. There he is, car number 33. He's pressed on for the last couple of laps since taking over from Dean Stoneman over the crest of the hill. Neat, tidy, but importantly, very quick. He's ahead of Dorian Boccolacci. I sense Boccolacci has slightly closed the gap between them. 2.5 seconds it was. Dean Stoneman, of course, had to get out of the car, hand to Patrick Kugler. Kugler had to just feel his way in. The gap has come down 2.5 seconds. Where will Kevin Russell emerge in car number 9, waiting to be signalled to go away? Down out of turn 13 into turn 14 comes the car that was second behind that number 9 car. Number 9 car gets going down the pit lane, has to stay with the pit lane speed limiter on. The GSM car of Jonathan Cecotto, I think that was. Surely not. Just well, let's double check. No, it's not. Sorry, it's a Mikinek car in the background as 9 comes out. It's almost precisely the same distance in front of 33 as it was before. We've got the second driver, so Patrick Kugler. He'll be quicker for the next few moments until Kevin Russell can find his form. But the gap, well, it's half a second between them, so that's been a good pit stop sequence. But for Patrick Kugler, if he's going to strike, he's got to strike super fast indeed to make that move. In fact, he's already got past. He got past out of turn 2, and now suddenly Dorian Boccolacci fancies getting past Kevin Russell before Kevin's up to speed. Kevin's trying to feed his way in, but you had there Patrick Kugler knowing he had to leap and make his pounce immediately. He certainly did that. He was behind going into turn 1, ahead going out of turn 2, turn 3. So he's made the move into the lead of the race for Benaldi Motorsport. 18 minutes to go. And also Dorian Boccolacci, who shared yesterday's winning car with Kevin Ghilardoni. He's moved by the car that led from pole, the number 9 car from Target Racing. Kevin Russell on board now, and it's down to 3rd position. Looking to see how much further down the track Kevin Lewandowski should be. Actually, I'll call him Andre because that's his name. Sorry, Kevin Ghilardoni. I was talking about the first part of the race. But our first 3 really, not quite nose to tail, but very, very close indeed. I'd say 3 seconds or so cover the lot of them. But importantly for Patrick Kugler, he's managed to put Hans Fabry's bright green car between him and the chasers. This car was the first one to the finish yesterday by a small margin. Little mistake coming out of the final corner for Dean Stoneman. Meant he couldn't get the power down. But he had to be 3 seconds clear because the car had 3 seconds to be applied to it after the end of the race for a bit of contact earlier in the race. And unfortunately, he didn't win by 3 seconds. Could have done, but there was a safety car that bunched the field up. So let's see now what happened. This is the passing manoeuvre. Turn 2 was still the race leader. Number 9 went so wide he almost went out of image. And thank you very much, said Patrick Kugler. And then while we had the driver of number 9, Kevin Russell, getting some grip and getting back onto the circuit, I think he also lost that 2nd place. Certainly lost the position to the leader, Patrick Kugler. Then Dorian Boccolacci shaped up and went past him as well. So the order is Patrick Kugler leading in car number 33. Then Dorian Boccolacci 2.2 seconds down. 3rd place Kevin Russell. And then the 2 VS Racing cars, Vincenzo Sospiri's 16 ahead of 6. So Andre Lewandowski, he's just taken over, getting up to speed. But the chasing car, Sebastian Fernandez, the Spanish racer at home, he did the first half of the race. So he's far more confident, and around the outside he goes at turn 5. That's not a thing you say very often, but very compliant there from Lewandowski. But Fernandez picking up the pace, picking up the speed. He's up to 4th now. Lewandowski, though, he knows he's actually running in the Pro-Am class, so that's what he's focusing on. Then behind Lewandowski, a bit of a gap, then comes Jonathan Cecotto. But now, speed limit in the pit lane. Car 33, we sort of, gosh, look how wide Kevin Russell went. He sort of almost in a neighbouring county. Oh dear. Car 33, drive-throughs. Oh dear, 2nd drive-through the race. The first one was car number 2, Noah Watt got it wrong. That car's only in the hands now of Sebastian Baltar, only up to 10th. So a drive-through for our race leader. He's got 3 laps after message to serve that. So suddenly, yesterday, Oregon team, they took victory. They were 2nd to the finish line. But the car in front, this car, the number 33, Benaldi car, had a 3-second time penalty. That dropped it to 2nd. And now, far worse. Don't know if it's Patrick Kugler going out or Dean Stoneman going in, but one of them did some speeding in the pit lane over the mandated limit, and a drive-through is coming their way. So that is a real disappointment for... This is the championship leading car. This is the car in which Dean Stoneman holds the advantage. If there's a silver lining, it's the fact that his Raul Guzman and Milos Pavlovic, who has started equal on points with him at the start today, didn't get to start the race. So he's got to absolutely nail this drive-through, and then he's going to have to overtake like mad Patrick Kugler in the 2nd half of this race. Well, almost the final quarter of this 50-minute race. So, instead of a straight battle between Kugler and Dorian Boccolacci that was shaping up very nicely indeed, but you always sense Kugler has that little bit more speed to go with his greater Lamborghini Super Trofeo experience. Now he's got a very, very different challenge. It's come in this time or come in next time, but he's got to come in very soon indeed to serve that drive-through. How far down the order that will get him right to the bottom of the top 10. Oh, he's going to have to do a lot of overtaking in the remainder of the race. So the team's probably trying to work out just where he's going to come out in traffic. And for all drivers like Jonathan Cecotto here, they will gain a position overall. He's 6th, that will become 5th. He's now getting right onto the tail of Andre Lewandowski. He's going to be able to pick off the Pro-Am class leader in the next couple of laps, maybe even the next lap itself. But Jonathan Cecotto, great to have the camera on board GSM Racing Chargers. Again, you can see over the top of the crest at turn 12, drivers still trying to get heat in the front tyres. They're still just not offering what you get if you're racing here in the height of summer. So Dorian Boccolacci now into lead the race. Patrick Kujla into the pits to serve the drive-through. That means Kevin Russell, who made that mistake just after he came out, dropped him down to third place. Here is the drive-through in one end, out the other of the pit lane. Hopefully all done. Now he can release the throttle, gets that white line. It marks the fact you're back onto the racing circuit. He's coming out just behind Jonathan Cecotto. Sorry, again, I've been caught out by the Mechanic Motorsport car that's come out. So let's just see where he slots back in. I think he's going to be in about 10th position. It's not the GSM car, it was my inability to identify that. That's car number 22. It is the Mechanic car running last. Libor Voracek keeps out the way very tidily indeed. But undoubtedly, Dorian Boccolacci leading the race. 1.3 seconds, but that's ahead of Kujla when he was in the pit lane. So, more importantly, over Kevin Russell. In fact, he's got a 7-second advantage over second place. Cecotto, though, all over the tail of Lloyd Vodowski. Gets through very, very impressively round the outside. Up to turn 12 they go. They start dropping down the slope to 13. The Ridley chicane. Oh, in fact, sorry, I beg your pardon. A little lower down on the track, but move made by GSM Racing's Jonathan Cecotto. Andrei Lewandowski still leads, still very impressive 6th place overall, sharing with Bass. And Bass in the early part of the race. Lewandowski still leading Pro-Am though. Second in Pro-Am is the Oregon team's Victor Franconi. Third in class, Mikko Eskelinen. So he's fallen back since taking over from Elias Niskanen for Life Motorsport. But 1, 2 and 3 in the Pro-Am class. Dorian Boccolacci, he'll have a smile on his face. In the pit lane, Kevin Gilladoni will have an equally large one because the gap back to Kevin Russell was 7 seconds, now 9.6 seconds. So if just trying to look at the pace of Russell, that was not an enormously quick lap. 1 minute 52. I need to wonder if he's got a slight problem. He's normally faster than this, but he was 3. Has he made another mistake? We saw him running wide just after he came out of the pits. This is offering great succour to Sebastian Fernandez. He's racing on home ground, the Spanish racer. He's third, and he took 2 seconds out of the car ahead of him last time around. The gap's 6.4 seconds, so in 4 laps he ought to be able to catch him. There's plenty of time for that. So suddenly for VS Racing, that had such a rotten day yesterday, so many mishaps for its drivers, including Sebastian Fernandez, had several on his own. Suddenly today's looking a whole lot better with the sun shining for them. Their car's running 3rd and 5th. It could soon, in a few laps, be 2nd and 5th, which would be a massive upswing. And for Jonathan Cecotto, he is faster than Fernandez in turn. So this lead battle is going out in the favour of Dorian Boccolacci, our race leader, but Kevin Russell is falling back to Sebastian Fernandez, and both are being caught by Jonathan Cecotto. Good choice to have the onboard camera over the crest of the hill at Kamsa, down the slope to the infield, hairpin, the left-hander. It's turn 10. Slightly abbreviated, truncated to where it used to be. He used to run a little bit further down the hill, and it makes a much more fiddly run through turn 11 and 12. Now, how close is he going to get this time around? He's putting in a really, really good lap, Jonathan Cecotto, and all along the car in front is getting larger. That's Sebastian Fernandez. And Patrick Kujla, by the way, running in 6th place after that drive-through penalty, and Noah Watt's car in the hands of Sebastian Balthazar. Circled earlier, that's down in 9th. Just having a quick look at the pace. Oh, very wide over the curves there. Brave from Jonathan Cecotto. Did he close the gap to the car in front? No, he didn't. In fact, Sebastian Fernandez slightly pulled away from him, but he's now, Fernandez, the Spaniard, only 4 seconds down on Kevin Russell. Another not enormously quick lap for Russell, which is great news, not for Russell, of course, but for Dorian Boccolacci, leading the race by now nearly 12 seconds. Max Weering in traffic. Max, the young Dutchman, running in 7th. That's a good run for him. He's got Victor Franconi not too far behind him in the Pro-Am class. 2nd in the Pro-Am class, 8th overall for the Oregon team. Suddenly it's getting a little bit busy back down there. The red car in the background of that shot is Sebastian Balthazar, trying to make up ground as well. Hans Fabry just staying out. He is the driver leading the AM class in the bright green number 88. Oh yeah, Sebastian Balthazar in the red car now, right on the tail of number 14. Victor Franconi, he's got a battle on his hands. And you do wonder, both for Watts, who had to serve a drive-through penalty, that's why the car's down in 9th, and for Patrick Kuchler, had to serve a drive-through penalty, having taken the lead of this race. He's down in 6th. He's now putting in the fastest looking laps, his fastest laps of the race so far, picking his way up. His next target will be Andrzej Lewandowski. He's got time to get up there and pass the Polish runner. 7 3/4 minutes remaining in this race. Sebastian Balthazar, number 2. Well, he's having a lot of fun right now, and he's going to see if he can unseat Victor Franconi, the Brazilian, in front of him. Max Murray just a little cushion ahead of the pair of them. So here we're looking at the battle for 8th and 9th, and that was very easy. That was very well done by Victor Franconi, but he knows he's running in the Pro-Am class. He doesn't need a pro runner behind him per se. Number 69 bouncing out over the curbing for Guillaume Bouillabea. He's running in 10th. A lot of drivers just try and put the power down a little too soon before the car's got proper traction out of the chicane. And you see them have to come off the power when they really want to be applying it to sweep through that final corner, to take their speed, as much momentum as they can down that long start-finish straight, the one that dips down to turn 1. Best chance for overtaking. But that was very gentlemanly driving there from Victor Franconi, and I'm sure Sebastian Balthazar will thank him for that afterwards. But our race leader, Dorian Boccolacci, lovely run going past the Boutson-Ginian entry of Claude-Yves Gosselin. Claude-Yves Gosselin running in 14th place, running 3rd in the AM class. But for our race leader, series of good solid laps. He's got an advantage of 13.4 seconds. This is huge by Super Trofeo standards. Kevin Russell falling away all the time, but now Sebastian Fernandez in 3rd place is only 2.3 seconds down in Russell, closing all the time. But Boccolacci keeping it smooth, keeping it though super fast. 6 minutes remaining. He's got nobody to play with. He'll love it like that. Everyone likes a scrap, but if you're going to put a second win in 2 days to really propel your team, your pairing up the championship order, this is exactly what he's focusing on right now. 13-second gap. What's it going to be? 16? Very nearly 16 seconds, 15.9 seconds. But Fernandez is only 0.3 of a second down on the start-finish straight. So down to turn 1 they will go as Boccolacci escapes. And I expect that Kevin Russell will cede that second position to the flying Fernandez any moment now. Dorian Boccolacci untroubled in the lead of the race. Yes, a series of laps in 1 minute 52 seconds just hasn't been enough for Kevin Russell, with his rivals lapping in 1 minute 50 flat. And the move has been made. There is Sebastian Fernandez. Got the deal done, and he's up into 2nd place overall. Sebastian Fernandez doing a great job. Target Racing, Kevin Russell having to make do with 3rd place at the moment, but Jonathan Cecotto is just a couple of seconds behind, coming into the rear of that shot. There is the flash of the GSM Racing car. I fancied Cecotto might get a podium. He was going to be a bit of an outside bet, but with drive-through penalties for Benaldi Motorsports Patrick Kuchler and for Life at Motorsports Noah Watts, that's removed them from the likelihood of being on the podium. And let's take a look at the replay. The move was coming all along for Sebastian Fernandez, and Kevin Russell didn't make it too difficult. You can see the writing was on the wall. Down to turn 1, a classic overtaking place. In fact, the vast majority of overtaking happens there, and again down into turn 10. They're the 2 key passing points on the circuit. Jonathan Cecotto picking up the pace, still in 4th, but I think the number on the left of his graphic will go to 3rd, go to 3 very soon. Perhaps if he gets a nice tidy exit behind Kevin Russell. Kevin tidy, but greater speed out of the corner onto the start-finish straight, the power down a little bit sooner. One senses from Jonathan Cecotto, not quite close enough to get the toe, but he can do it next time around. But he's going to gain, he'll have caught the car before we come onto the start-finish straight all over again. He'll do it somewhere, maybe as soon as turn 10 could be the passing move coming up, because he's way quicker. Yeah, 2 and a bit seconds quicker on that lap alone of Kevin Russell. Well, can Kevin hang on? It's going to be a massive fight. He's got 3.5 minutes until the checkered flag comes out, but he's just handed the place over. He goes, I'm not going to make it difficult for you. I'm wide on turn 3. Turn 3 seems to be a corner. I know he just made space, but of course that was the corner he had a problem with. Ran very wide just after the pit stops, and that is how we had Patrick Kujla taking the lead. Patrick has now gone past Andrei Lewandowski, so he's up into 5th overall. He's right, actually should be right on the tail of Jonathan Cecotto. Let's have a little look in terms of their times. No, he should be, sorry, he's about 5 seconds further back down the order. I was going to say, I mistook a time on the screen. It said 6.2 seconds. I could have said 0.2. And for Jonathan now, Jonathan Cecotto, he can look up the track. He can see Sebastian Fernandez, but that's quite an ask to catch the VS Racing car in the remaining 2.5 minutes. Particularly as they're really swapping, putting in very, very similar lap times this late stage in the race. As you can see, it swings one way by a small amount, then back the other by an equal amount of time down the slope. Turn 14 and 15 beckons, but turn 1 beckons for our race leader. Such is his advantage. Dorian Boccolacci, last time I looked, he was 16 seconds clear. Maybe it doesn't go out by such increments now because it's not being pegged against Kevin Russell, but Sebastian Fernandez, 16.5 seconds his advantage. Jonathan Cecotto, 3.5 seconds further back in 3rd place. Kevin Russell still in 4th, but he's only got a 3-second advantage over Patrick Kujla. Kujla is not finished. Every place he can gain is something that will help his teammate Dean Stoneman extend his championship lead. But for Dorian Boccolacci and Kevin Ghilardoni, victory yesterday and what looks almost definite to be a victory today gives them maximum points haul here at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. They've got 2 races supporting the Spa 24 Hours at Spa in a couple of weekends' time, and then 2 more at the finale, 14th and 15th of November at Paul Ricard. So still unusual in this curtailed season, this season that got shunted backwards by the pandemic, suddenly gets very busy, but to be almost in the middle of October and only just being entering the second half of the season, it really feels very odd indeed. Dorian Boccolacci driving really, really very, very smoothly at the front. Doesn't need to take risks. Track conditions absolutely perfect. It's in behind. How are the gaps coming down? It's 16.5 seconds between Dorian Boccolacci, race leader, Sebastian Fernandez in 2nd place. Jonathan Cecotto, 3.5 seconds further back in 3rd, but that will be closing. Kevin Russell will now be trying to hold off Patrick Kujla. I think 4th and 5th will flip over between the pair of them before the race is over. Top runner at the moment in Pro-Am is Andrei Lewandowski. He's only 4.5 seconds up on Max Wearing. That should be enough to stay there through to the end of the race. Top Am runner, Feeder Live like yesterday. Top Lamborghini Cup runner, Hans Fabry. So, on to the final lap of the race goes Dorian Boccolacci. He's backed off a bit. He's only 14.8 seconds to the good now over Sebastian Fernandez. Jonathan Cecotto doesn't seem to have any answers to Fernandez's pace, so maybe the Spaniard is safe. The Venezuelan will have to accept that final position on the podium. Kevin Russell just in front of Patrick Kujla, holds on to 4th place. I think that will probably have changed by turn 1, certainly by the exit of turn 3, a corner that Russell really stays out wide on. But for our race leader, looking very, very tidy. Jonathan Cecotto still hanging on in 3rd place. Kevin Russell nearly 4 seconds behind him, but in fact I think the next car he will see in his mirrors, but not close enough to trouble him, as this is the final lap, will be Patrick Kujla. The move has not yet been made. Even at this late stage of this race, the final lap of the race, Dorian Boccolacci stealing a bit of tarmac wherever possible, but he's cruising to the finish. The work was done with his teammate Kevin Ghilardoni doing a really great opening stint in the race. Dorian Boccolacci pushed very hard after his pit stop. Now he has to push very little further through turn 14, through turn 15. The next one is 16. It's the last one of the lap. And what a weekend for the Oregon team. It's Italian-French pairing, Kevin Ghilardoni from Italy and Dorian Boccolacci backs it right off. No need to race to the finish because he has this one in the bag. The checkered flag is waved. What a phenomenal weekend they've had. 2 days, 2 races, 2 wins. And delighted Sebastian Fernandez, after yesterday being a bit of a dark day for him, comes through in second place. The gap would have come down 13.6 seconds for the reference. And in fact, he stretched his advantage over Jonathan Cecotto, who ended up in third place. For GSM Racing, Patrick Kujla in the end, just another 4 and a bit seconds behind him. There is Kujla. He got past Kevin Russell on that final lap. Kevin falling to 5th place. But it really was a race. There was great racing in the first stint, but then 2 drive-through penalties for the cars that were running at the time. One was 3rd and 2nd, but unfortunately for the one that was 2nd, it took the lead in the race and then had the drive-through penalty. That was Patrick Kujla, got back to 4th place at the finish, but the rules are there. You transgress and you can pick up drive-through penalties. So 2 drive-through penalties for the cars right at the front end of the race, but for Kevin Ghilardoni, who started, and Dorian Boccolacci, they did not put a wheel wrong. They were always in the hunt. And in the Super Trofeo, it's about getting not just a quick driver, it's getting 2 quick drivers, a well-balanced driver pairing. And I must say they're very, very much showing that form. So it had been super impressive for them this weekend. And their sister car, just for the reference, came 2nd in Pro-Am. So the trophies will be starting to pile up in the Oregon Team Transporter when they pack it up after this event. So 1st overall and 2nd in Pro-Am. It's a good haul for them here in Barcelona. And for Dorian Boccolacci, the great enjoyment, a sunny day, wave to the marshals out around the circuit. Down to turn 10 he goes. The job done very, very tidily indeed. Let's take a look at the final order. We know the identity of our winners. It's Kevin Ghilardoni and Dorian Boccolacci. He brought it to the finish, 13.6 seconds to the good. And for Sebastian Fernandez, it was a day of recovery. Poor day yesterday, 2nd place today, seized with both hands. Patrick Liddy and Jonathan Cecotto took the final place on the podium, ahead of championship leader Dean Stoneman and Patrick Kujla. A drive-through penalty hurt them very much indeed, but 4th place was a good recovery. Alberto Di Folco started on pole. Teammate Kevin Russell took over. They end up in 5th. And then the car that was top in Pro-Am, Andrei Lewandowski and Carol Bass, 6th place overall. Max Wiering did it all on his own to finish 7th. And another car with a drive-through made it back to 8th place. Know what started, know what transgressed, served the drive-through penalty. Sebastian Balthazar finished it off. And then completing the top 10, Victor Franconi and Lorenzo Bonsempelli, and Jonathan Dudek bring it home with Guillaume Puya-Beja. So for the car there at the bottom of the screen, Raul Guzman, Milos Pavlovic, equal on championship points, didn't start the race, didn't make it round to the grid, which was most unfortunate. But down in Parc Fermé, down by the podium, a very, very happy Dorian Boccolacci will be climbing out. Hot, but not bothered at all. Very happy in life. You can hear the horns blowing in celebration as he comes in. And here's a duo that really, really starting to believe. It's interesting, Kevin Ghilardoni saying at the beginning it was very, very slippery. It certainly was. But that is a happy pair of drivers. For Vincenzo Sospiri Racing, after a Saturday they want to forget, it's a Sunday they will remember, with that 2nd place for Sebastian Fernandez driving solo. The sister car, Andrei Lewandowski, won the Pro-Am class, so that's a much better return for Sospiri's team today. For Dorian Boccolacci and Kevin Ghilardoni, they must be very, very happy with life. It's been it was a fabulous Saturday, a great day with a golden end, and now it's a sunny day with another golden finish for them. And the cars will be packed up, and in fairly short order will work their way towards Spa-Francorchamps, where they're starring on the support programme for the Spa 24 Hours on the weekend of the 23rd, 24th of October. Well, the 24th, 25th is the race date, but their races will be the 23rd and the 24th, the Friday and the Saturday at Spa-Francorchamps. But right now, in glorious sunshine here in Spain, middle of October. And for the Oregon team, it's been a weekend they will remember for a long time. They took that first win. But let's go down and hear from our winners. Kevin Ghilardoni kicked it off, and Dorian Boccolacci, very happy Dorian, brought it home.
Boys, congratulations. 2 races, 2 wins. You're struggling with your mask there, Dorian. But Kevin, fantastic opening stint, and you set it up for Dorian to bring it home.
Yeah, it's to Roina win yesterday and today. it's two different tastes of the victory, because yesterday I was in the car at the end and today I was at the beginning, so we had the chance to share two opportunities. It's something special to leave the win on the pit wall, so something really special, and today the team did a mega job because the car was completely perfect. At the beginning I fight a little bit with the car and then it was so constant, and Dorian finished the job, so we are so happy for everybody is helping us to be here.
And Dorian, do you feel that you were helped a bit once the 33 car got given the penalty?
Honestly, I was feeling really good because the first few laps when he went out, I catch him quite quickly. Then the car number 9 went out and he did a mistake. I had a bit of traffic, but I think I could manage to recover the gap. But at the end, he had the drive-through, so I knew it, and I say, okay, for sure I have a lot of gap from behind. I will not push like this because we never know if there is a safety car and we need to still push 2 or 3 laps at the end. So yeah, it was a good race. I pushed quite a lot when I went in the car. I did a really good lap times and we recovered quite a lot. And I'm really happy to make this victory for the team because they are working a lot, and we are, as we said yesterday, we are new in the championship. And good point for the championship, and really happy to make this with my teammate.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, a comprehensive win there for Ghilardoni and teammate Dorian Boccolacci. And we're looking forward to the podium ceremony. You'll see two very, very happy individuals. To do it once is great to make a mark for your team, but then to follow it up with a victory the following day really has made it a remarkable weekend for the Oregon team here at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. Cars looking great down in the sunshine there. And just to reiterate, they also took second place in the Pro-Am class. That was won by Vincenzo Sospiri Racing's Andre Lewandowski and Carol Bass, but second place for Victor Franconi, who we saw him being cautious at the end of the race. Quite wise to do that. And he was sharing that with Lorenzo Bonsempelli, so it's been a good couple of days for them as well. But in the sunshine in Spain, it's time for the podium ceremony. Drivers waiting to be herded into position. We've got the 4 classes of racing. We've got the overall, we've got the Pro-Am, we've got the Am, and the Lamborghini Cup class as well. So, one driver did it all on his own. Wasn't a great day yesterday, but today Sebastian Fernandez will certainly be smiling.
Sebastian, second place in your home race. That's a great feeling.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm very happy, especially considering it's my first race in GT cars. So yeah, at the beginning I was struggling a bit because I didn't know what to expect. Also because yesterday we were on the range. So today I was kind of lost, but after that I gained some confidence, gained some pace, and at the end we got the podium, which is good. So I'm very, very happy.
There's a lot of mixed talent out there, but certainly for your first race, you've made your mark.
Yeah, especially considering it's my first race ever here with GT cars. Some of these guys have been racing for quite a while. So I'm just very happy with the results and looking forward for another races with these cars.
Well done, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think he was quite wise to point that out because, you know, jumping into cars like these when your background has not been racing GT cars, it's a big, big step up. You're racing in European Formula Renault and FIA Formula 3, but really that is impressive. He did slip up a bit yesterday, but conditions could not have been trickier. A greasy, wet track, and today in the dry he got stronger and stronger. So Sebastian Fernandez, I expected Jonathan Cecotto to haul him in, and it's mark of just how fast Sebastian Fernandez was going that he managed to actually stretch that advantage in second place. So well done to him. So waiting for the first set of drivers to be called up to the podium. Bravo, bravo. It's a GSM pairing of Patrick Liddy and Jonathan Cecotto, third place today. So that's, in fact, that's their best finish of the year. They've had 3 fourth places, a couple of 8ths, and now a third. So they'll be very, very pleased with that run. Looking good and solid for GSM Racing, provided us some great footage with their onboard camera. Second place today, Sebastian Fernandez, we just heard from the tall Spaniard. And one sense is if he does that in his first weekend of driving a GT type car, there is a lot more to come from him. but two drivers, you won't see their smiles, but you see the eyebrows are up in happiness. Dorian Boccalacci and Kevin Ghilardoni. They don't care what the weather is, but to win here in the sunshine is all the greater here in the middle of October. But for the Oregon team, they have turned a corner. And yes, there were slip-ups from some of their rivals, but to be at the top of the chart 2 days running shows they are at the top level in this championship for the first time. So the trophies for the overall winners. And in the end, victory, even with Boccalacci backing off, not taking risks in the final laps, 13.6 seconds. They got it right. Some of their rivals who served drive-through penalties got it wrong. They will rue the little mistakes that cost them potential victory. So now we're going through the Pro-Am runners and the crew that come out in third. Mikko Eskalanian and Elias Niskanen, 11th overall, third in the Pro-Am class. Elias on the left, Mikko on the right. More trophies for them. Second in the Pro-Am class, Victor Franconi and Lorenzo Bonsempelli. Out they come. So Victor joined the Oregon team this weekend. So again, more trophies for the multicoloured team. And that means we're waiting for the winners in class. Carol Bash, who started it off, ran in third place, and Andrei Lewandowski, always aware that he's going for Pro-Am honours rather than overall, so he keeps out of the way of some of his rivals and more useful points in the bag. In fact, apart from not winning the class yesterday, that makes it 5 wins from 6 starts for this pairing. So Andrei Lewandowski's got a super start. He knows in the form of his teammate Carol Bash. Carol does the spade work, and then it's completed in style by Andrei Lewandowski, the all-Polish pairing dominating the Pro-Am class this year. In the AM class trophy presentation now, in third place, Busson-Ginion race, Claude-Yves Gosselin. Second place in cars, Massimo Mantovani. And Fidel Lieb will be the overall winner, but Claude-Yves Gosselin there. For Busson-Ginion, sharing with Giuseppe Fascicolo. Second place coming up, Massimo Mantovani and Dilanta Malagamua. Trophies high in the air, they like this one. And the winner in the AM class, car number 21 from Lippert Motorsport. Yuri Wagner and Fidel Lieb. Out they come. It's been a good weekend for them. 2 wins in 2 days, that's what you really need when you're building your championship challenge. And winners here in Barcelona. Made it look pretty easy there. In the end, they won by 5 seconds. Good victory there. Fidel Lieb finishing it off. But now we will go to the final presentations for the Lamborghini Cup class. In which Kurt Wagner and Libor Voracek, they will take the trophy for second place in class. Mikonek Motorsport, and that would leave the last podium trophy of the day to go to the winner of the Lamborghini Cup class here in Spain, to Hans Fabry from Imperial Racing. He didn't get it at the opening round, but he's won the class on 3 of the 4 occasions since. Sorry, 4 of the 5 occasions since, so he'll grab another trophy, appear for his photos, arms up in triumph. It was a race of some cracking racing, some great chasing, and Dorian Boccalacci and Kevin Ghilardoni, they took victory yesterday. They weren't first to the finish, but the penalty to the winning car put them there, but they were right in the mix. But today they really proved that was no fluke, and they did it all over again and in even more style. So it's been a great weekend for them here at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. The sun is shining. It's a fabulous Sunday. Let's take a look at the championship points. Dean Stoneman, a drive-through penalty aside, still leads the championship. Alberto Di Folco, Kevin Russell now only 5 points behind. Dorian Boccalacci, though, in the mix, up onto 52 points. Suddenly it's closing right up. at the top. But for Milos Pavlovic and Raul Guzman didn't get to start the race, didn't make it round to the grid, unfortunately. They've fallen from a share of the lead down to 4th place overall. Tightening up absolutely beautifully. Still got 2 rounds and 4 races to go before this championship reaches its conclusion. Will Dean Stoneman still be at the top at the end of the year? It's looking more and more of a challenge for him. So great spread of nationalities as ever in the Super Trofeo if you look down the right hand side of the table. 8-point lead for Dean Stoneman. Let's take a look at the Pro-Am Cup. Victory again today, stretching their advantage. Andrei Lewandowski and Karel Bash. Lorenzo Bonsempelli took 2nd in class today, more useful points for him. And 3rd in class today, also 3rd on the points, Elias Niskanen and Mikko Eskelinen. And those are all looking fairly strong for those top 3 positions in the championship. They keep scoring strongly, but none more so than Lewandowski and Bash, the all-Polish pair at the top of the Pro-Am Cup table. And let's take a look at the AM class, and it's Massimo Mantovani, another good haul of points today. Giuseppe Fascicolo, Claude Gosselin for Busan Julien Racing. They're 20 points down, but just 1 ahead of Yuri Wagner. Yuri's got Fidel Live has joined him late in the season. They're pairing, but obviously with Fidel joining late on, he's only down in 4th place. But that's a tiny point lead for Massimo Mantovani, who's just enjoying such a great season this year for Target Racing. Top of the AM Cup. And it's been a great 2 days of racing. 2 days could not have been more contrasting in terms of weather and also the race result. Let's take a look at the top of the LC Cup. And it's Hans Fabry, winner again today. He's now 36 points to good over Kurt Wagner and Libor Voracek, who are only just in front of Martin Lechman and Emir Karisovic, who didn't come here to compete today. But for Hans Fabry, for Imperial Racing, it's all looking very, very good indeed at the top of the table. So let's take a look. The race started under the safety car. And then as soon as they were released, it was Alberto Di Folco pushing on very hard indeed, pushed by Dean Stoneman. In 3rd place was Noah Watt, but unfortunately for Noah, he was soon to be served with a drive-through penalty, and that moved him from 3rd right down the order. But up front, Dean Stoneman got closer and closer to Di Folco. Patrick Liddy had a great train of cars in behind him. He had Elias Niskanen and in the back, Max Weering as well. And then it was the turn of the pit stops. Kevin Ghilardoni was one of the first in, and his teammate Dorian Boccalacci became the first of the cars from the front running group to come in and serve a pit stop. He was pressing on hard and potentially could have been coming out and been in the lead of the race. A little bit of a slip up there for Jonathan Judek, car number 69, but it was a question of where Patrick Kujla would be when he emerged from his pit stop. He came out in front. Alberto Di Folco, who was the early race leader, handed over to Kevin Russell. And look, Kevin Russell comes out into the lead of the race. The white and black car coming down the slope with Boccalacci in the background was in 2nd place, but Russell just ran wide at turn 3 just after he came out of the pits. By the time he'd rejoined, regathered his wits, got down to turn 4, he was back into 2nd place. So Kujla into the lead of the race. But you know what? Kujla's car was given a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Whether it was him or Dean Stoneman, it mattered not. It dropped the car to 6th place, and the rest of the race was all about catch-up, and that meant all on his own out the front was Dorian Boccalacci. There was overtaking further down the field. We had number 6, Sebastian Fernandez, on his first weekend in a GT car, coming up into 2nd place, but victory at the checkered flag, backing it off, still winning by 13 seconds, was Dorian Boccalacci, sharing with Kevin Ghilardoni. And in behind, as the flags were waved at the end of the race, 2nd place to Fernandez, 3rd place to Jonathan Cicotto, and Patrick Kujla made it up to 4th place, atoning for that drive-through penalty. But at the end, it was Boccalacci and Ghilardoni with the smiles.